You are closer than you have ever been. You are not tired because you have been doing too much. You are tired because you have been carrying something that was never explained to you, something nobody warns you about when you start to change, when you start to grow, when you start to become someone your old life no longer recognizes. And here's the part that will stay with you long after this ends the heaviness you feel right now. The restless nights, the relationships that suddenly feel like they belong to someone else's life, the strange grief you cannot name. None of it means something is wrong with you. It means something is happening to you, something significant, something that most people never allow themselves to reach because they mistake this exact feeling for failure and turn back. You did not turn back. And that changes everything. There is something nobody tells you about transformation. They talk about the breakthroughs. They talk about the new life, the new version of you. The moment everything finally clicks into place, they make it sound luminous. They make it sound like one morning you simply wake up different, like a butterfly that cracked open its cocoon overnight and stretched into something beautiful without ever feeling the suffocation of what came before. But they never talk about the exhaustion. Not the kind that comes from working too hard or sleeping too little. The other kind, the deep kind, the kind that settles behind your eyes and presses down on your chest and makes even the simplest moments feel like you are moving through something thick and invisible. The kind where someone asks how you are doing and you say tired, because it is the closest word available, even though tired does not come close to covering it. What you are feeling is not weakness. It is not burnout. It is not evidence that something has gone wrong. It is the feeling of becoming. But here is what almost nobody realizes. The exhaustion is not coming from the transformation itself. It is coming from the tension between who you are now and who you have not yet fully allowed yourself to be. Somewhere inside you, something is still gripping the edge of the old life. Not because you want to return to it. You do not. You have outgrown so much, released so many layers, walked away from things that cost you more than they ever gave back. You have sat with yourself in the uncomfortable quiet and chosen, repeatedly, without applause, to keep moving. But forward motion and full release are not the same thing. This is the part that slips past most people. You can physically leave a place and emotionally still be standing in it. You can close a chapter so deliberately, so consciously, and still carry every single page tucked somewhere inside your chest. You can step into a new version of your life, while your nervous system is still anticipating the disasters of the old one, still scanning for threats that no longer exist, still flinching at sounds from storms that already passed. Your body remembers things your mind has already decided to forgive. Sit with that for a moment. You have been doing everything with intention. You have reflected, adjusted, reframed. You have found meaning inside pain that had no business producing meaning. You chose growth when staying small would have been so much less demanding. And yet something still feels displaced. The sleep that is supposed to restore you leaves you hollow. The relationships that once felt like home now feel like spaces you are borrowing. The version of yourself that used to fit inside your own life simply does not anymore. And instead of reading this as evidence of how profoundly you have grown, you have been quietly, privately, wondering if something is broken in you. That quiet wondering, that is where I want to go, because this is the part that is genuinely difficult to say. You have spent so long building someone new that you never stopped to grieve who you had to leave behind. That might feel like a strange thing to grieve. Why mourn a version of yourself you consciously chose to move past? Why feel loss for a life that no longer fit, for patterns that were hurting you, for a smaller, more frightened version of who you are? Because that person was still you, and they carried you to this exact moment. The version of you who doubted everything and showed up anyway. Who said yes when every honest part of them meant no. Who made themselves smaller, quieter, less, not out of weakness but out of a learned survival that made sense at the time. Who loved people who were not yet capable of loving them back in the right ways, and kept choosing to show up regardless. Who absorbed pain that was never theirs to absorb and still, somehow, got out of bed the next morning and faced the day. You do not have to miss that life to honor the extraordinary endurance it took to survive it. And this realization shifts everything about the weight you are currently carrying. What you are holding right now is not simply the heaviness of change. It is accumulated, unprocessed grief from 100 moments where you were asked to release something before you had fully finished needing it. The friendship that dissolved so gradually there was never a clear moment to mourn it. The dream that had to be temporarily set down and picked back up in a completely different shape. The future you once mapped out in your mind that quietly became impossible because you grew beyond it. Nobody talks about how many quiet endings live inside a single transformation. You have been moving through all of them. Alone, without ritual or ceremony or anyone around you even noticing, because from the outside you look like someone ascending. And you are, but ascension and grief are not opposites. They coexist in the same body, in the same breath, producing this feeling you have been unable to locate or label, this sensation of being simultaneously full and completely emptied out, eager and bone-tired, certain and terrified. You are not confused. You are carrying more than one true thing at once, and that is one of the most demanding things a human being can do. And now I need to say something directly to you. You have been reading the discomfort of this season as a sign that you are falling behind, that you are not moving fast enough, healing thoroughly enough, trusting deeply enough, that the fact it still hurts that the new life has not yet made itself fully visible somehow means you are failing at your own becoming. But the discomfort is not the problem. The discomfort is the confirmation. You only feel the friction of becoming when you are genuinely in motion. Stagnation does not feel like this. Stagnation is quiet. Stagnation is familiar and dull and does not wake you at 3 a.m. with that strange, electric, restless feeling that something is right on the edge of breaking open. Only real, significant movement creates this kind of internal pressure. The restlessness is not anxiety. It is momentum you have not yet learned to recognize as your own. But underneath even that, there is something else, something that rarely gets named out loud. You are frightened of what happens when it actually works, not frightened of failure. Failure you understand. You have navigated it, survived it, extracted something useful from it and kept moving. Failure is familiar ground, but genuine success. The kind that is fully aligned, fully authentic. The kind that asks you to completely inhabit who you are without reservation or apology. That is unfamiliar in a way that feels almost more dangerous. Because arriving means no more comfortable distance between you and your own potential. No more almost. No more one day. No more hiding inside the safety of still becoming without ever quite being. Most people assume the final resistance before a breakthrough is the fear of not making it. It is not. It is the fear of making it so completely that the old life becomes unrecognizable. It is the fear of becoming so entirely yourself that you look back at everything you were and realize there is no returning, no softening, no compromise back into the smaller version. It is permanent. And permanence, even beautiful permanence, requires a kind of courage that nobody prepares you for. The relationships that are beginning to feel misaligned, the spaces that feel too contracted, the strange energy from people who are watching you with something that looks like criticism but feels more personal than that. This is not something happening to you as a consequence of bad luck or wrong timing. It is a natural result of becoming more fully yourself. When a person begins to genuinely inhabit who they are, it produces something that people in their proximity cannot ignore and cannot always comfortably look at. Not because you are doing anything wrong, but because your willingness to change holds up an unasked-for mirror to everyone around you who is not yet ready to look at themselves. Their discomfort is not your responsibility, and it is certainly not your instruction to shrink. There is a specific loneliness that comes with this kind of growth that almost nobody prepares you for. It is not the loneliness of being disliked or abandoned. It is subtler, and in some ways more disorienting. It is the loneliness of standing between two worlds, the one you have genuinely left, and the one that has not yet fully received you. The old world remembers who you were, and keeps relating to that person. The new world is waiting for you to arrive completely. And in the space between them, you exist in this tender, aching, oddly sacred in-between that has no map and no guaranteed timeline. You are not alone in any permanent sense, but you may feel it. And that feeling deserves acknowledgement rather than dismissal. Now consider something that may genuinely reframe everything. The vision you carry. That image of the life you are moving toward. So specific and vivid it sometimes physically hurts to hold. That vision is not something you constructed. It is something you recognized. There is a meaningful difference between those two things. You do not build a recognition. You stumble into it. You feel it land in your chest with a weight and a certainty that has nothing to do with logic. And the reason that particular vision feels so undeniable, so non-negotiable, so stubbornly persistent no matter how many times doubt tries to dissolve it, is because something in you already knows it is true. Not as aspiration, not as fantasy, as memory. The vision was never the dream you were chasing, it was always the home you were finding your way back to. So here you are, inside the most demanding and most meaningful passage of your becoming, carrying grief that has no grave, longing for a life that exists just past the edge of your current visibility, frightened by the scale of what you want and the depth of how much you know you deserve it. This is not collapse. This is not stagnation dressed in new language. This is the moment just before everything reorganizes, when the doubt arrives. And it will, it always does, and always precisely, when the distance remaining is the smallest it has ever been. Remember this. Fear does not show up for things that do not matter. Fear shows up for the real things, the significant things, the things that once changed, change everything. Safe choices and small risks do not produce this level of internal resistance. Only the things that are genuinely worth it demand this much from you. And you have never once, in all the moments it would have been easier to stop, actually stopped. You have been in preparation for this longer than you consciously realize, in ways that will only become clear when you are standing on the other side, looking back at this exact moment with a kind of quiet, settled recognition. Not because everything was perfect, not because the path was clean or the timing was fair or the losses were small, but because you were exactly what this moment required. Imperfect and brave and broken open in precisely the places that needed to be opened. Present for all of it even when presence was the hardest possible choice. This moment is asking one thing of you, not certainty, not the absence of fear, not proof that it is going to work before you take the next step. Just this, keep going because somewhere ahead of you, already living inside the life you are building toward, there is a version of you who made it. Who woke up one ordinary morning and realized the heaviness was gone. Who looked at their life and finally completely recognized it as their own. That version of you is not waiting for you to be more ready. They are simply waiting for you to remember that you already are.